All right, we'll get this thing going here. Appreciate everybody coming on short notice. Um, Could we like to call this meeting to order? Could I get a roll call?
Mr. Mather?
Here.
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 Get a motion of approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, first item of new business. Discuss and consider the impact of the county department by the recent emergency 30-week school closure by the governor. This was submitted by Pamela, so we'll let her take this over.
Thank you for allowing us to have this meeting on such short notice. You all seemed concerned when I call you late in the evening. We heard yesterday that the governor is closing the schools for 3 weeks in the county, which is going to create a burden on our employees that have school-age children. So I have two concerns. The first one listed here is how it's going to affect our departments for those employees that are not going to be able to come to work to stay home with their children. And I had heard from at least one department already that they're going to see some shortages in their department. So I'm hoping those departments can talk to you about what kind of shortages they may see and how they think that they're going to be able to continue operations with the shortages. And I know that Mark Douglas was one that has 2 employees with small children. And another concern of mine was the detention center. And I'm hoping most of your employees have reached out to you and expressed their concern with finding childcare.
I haven't heard anything directly. Rumors, just that one, but that one I'm not even sure how there's a situation, but because she doesn't have the child. The child is in Las Cruces, but we're already hearing that she might not be able to come to work, but she hasn't told you directly.
Okay.
But there is concern because we can't afford the people in the job. We're already short. So if people are gone, we're gonna have problems. That's safety and security for us.
If there was a shortage of people for you, what is your,
We don't have a backup.
you have no
We
plan?
have no plan.
Can
We
the,
can't pull people when we don't have to.
can the sheriff department deputies, can they fill in? Can we help? David, is this a,
I think we're going to kind of be looking at this. We've talked with some employees today. I think we would have to just look at our staffing levels because we're going to be, we've had several, they're already questioning what do we do? Do we stay home? Do we try to, what are we going to do with our kiddos? So I think it's all going to depend on what comes in Monday as far as how many of them, like I said, I think we've had, 3 or 4 that we've already expressed concerns about childcare and stuff. So.
Carolyn, I know that this is a touchy situation, but being that the situation is as panic-stricken as it is, I'm wondering if with your smaller staff, if you can't do rotations of time out versus keeping them on lockdown all the time, maybe you could take smaller groups out at a time or something along those lines. This is a completely different circumstance than I'm sure you've ever dealt with out there. So, I mean, I would understand you don't have anything in place for something like this, but there's got to be some kind of plan we can come up with that's going to make it easy for you guys and still keep the staff safe and the inmates safe.
I'm open to suggestions.
That's what I was thinking, if you can even talk with them in a group setting, that you can explain, this is what we have to do for safety reasons, for your safety, our safety, and just make a schedule of however many you can handle at one time safely to come out and go take some yard time or when they're coming to eat or.
Right now, we're at minimum. We're at the minimum as it is.
can you bring anybody in without taking them through the whole process of the background, blah, 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 the whole little
Prior
9 yards?
military, retired
Like-
police, anything like that?
Like just trying to get some temporary people that could come and,
I just wonder, anytime there's an emergency or state of emergency, then it's usually the National Guard or the state New Mexico National Guard is organized to assist in situations, and I just wonder if maybe that might possibly be a resource that we could contact. I don't know. I mean, outside of that, I mean, you know, we mentioned the sheriffs, but at the same time, you guys are going to be, y'all are going to be stressed to the gills through all of this as well.
Yeah, I think if we were to get some to help out or something like that, basically, we would have to bring them in on overtime budget. That's the only way you kind of volunteer deal on their days off.
I wonder if the National Guard, I wonder if if that could possibly be an avenue to help we've got, is there a local guard, is there a El Paso, would El Paso?
Well, we have a guard here.
Well,
Right up.
I just wonder if we might be able to reach out
It's something we can do.
to our local national, because most of them would be trained somewhat in disasters or relief or maybe security, or have those kind of backgrounds, you know, or maybe we could reach out to
We
them
will.
and see if they could assist us through this.
Yeah, and I mean, you could even put them on lesser critical, and bring your people who are trained to the areas that is going to require more training than those people who are just coming in. You know, I guess I just don't know. I mean, at this point, we're just trying to spitball this thing and make it work.
I come with the idea, in our office, we have four of us, or 3 out of 4 that have school-age children. Why don't we work together as a county, and these people that do not have daycare or alternative daycare, they all watch 5 kids one day, and then the next day that person takes off. So they're not this huge shortage. It would just be 1 day a week, one person would miss. You see what I'm
Sure.
saying?
And that could be maybe possibly something that could be organized internally inside of each one of y'all's, you know, each of the offices. If it's treasurer, clerk, assessor, whatever.
Is that going to be a liability deal, or that would be strictly?
If we're watching them in-house on,
No.
but yeah, but I think that each department, if they're proactive and work with their employees to join efforts, it's a great idea.
But that's still not going to help us I mean, that'll help on some, but I don't know how much it'll help us, like for Carolyn, with her, to
already
get somebody.
short-staffed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but on the departments, I don't see why why we couldn't at least explore that and the scary thing is we're talking 3 weeks, but we don't know.
It's
It
technically
might,
2 weeks, because 1 week was spring break. That was already on the books.
yeah.
They had to have it figured out. But some people had plans for spring break, and those plans have changed now too, because the Boys and Girls Club is closed, and a lot of us depend on them for after-school care, because we have small children, and they're closed now too, so that throws 3 weeks in there again.
On that point, the governor's press conference this morning, she's recommending that child care centers stay open. I was in contact with Nancy Hudson last night, and she said that Jen's is actually staying open.
Yes.
I found that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe reaching out to them to see if, the governor is making it very adamant that she's trying to do everything that she can to not inconvenience parents. So in that respect, I'm wondering if Chin's has extra slots that they could open up at a reduced rate, or even the state pay for it, because it's out of your hands. I don't know. That might be something that, reaching out to the governor's office and say, hey, and these centers that are staying open, is that a possibility? I don't know. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think-
Possibly, but then, if it's,
But why are we
if
sending them
they're
to a child
objective.
care?
Exactly.
Yeah, if they're objective.
They start running
not
into
to
the
have a
same
bunch of kids
situation.
together, then-
I
Yep.
agree. I couldn't get my head around why you close the schools, but you leave the child care centers open. I've
More
asked that
diseases and colds come out of them, then.
Yeah.
I've asked the question, I just haven't gotten an answer yet.
But in an emergency situation, then it takes emergency action, and if we did have to maybe organize something in-house, or maybe if we have a facility where, and what is it, as long as we don't have a large group, you know, I mean, it's just like in Cassie's instance with her kids, and if there's a few others in here, if we could organize something inside the county to.
Well, and I
Goes
think,
along.
I think we should make exceptions too, that if you have a 8-year-old that likes to sit and read and, you know, that maybe we would allow children to come into the workplace and make those accommodations as well to help the
Sure.
parents as best we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to dedicate one
Not
cell.
your employees.
This-
People here that can cover shifts.
There we go.
Have enough departments, we can cover shifts, yeah.
You don't come out.
That will have to happen if something seriously starts.
Well, a lot of the department, Laura, like for your example, in your department over there, would that be, could you still run business if you had 4 or 5 kids?
I don't know if I'd be mentally stable. I mean, it could be done, but it would be
Chaotic.
It would be. There's 5 kids amongst my office alone, so, I mean, we could do it, but it would,
We could just leave it to your discretion, you know, I mean, I would assume, I mean, if you felt like you could, then you could, and if you needed to organize something outside of the office or somebody's home and have some employees that you can trust to
Or even
watch
those
some kids.
high school age kids that aren't going to be able to go to school too. We could, if you had some that enjoy watching kids, there are a few of them out there, you know, you can incorporate that as well. I mean, as long as we're all helping each other with this situation, I think we'll get past it.
Yeah, I think it would be the best just to really have confidence in our department heads to handle it, and just the county support however they so choose.
So I think then at that point, if that's the case, then I think we need to look at if they're having to take time off, are they using their leave and discretionary time, or are we going to give them admin time off because it's not their fault that they have to take time off? So I think that's like a more pressing question at this point than how we're going to handle kids.
Well, that's a lot going to be in the next item.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot. And then you got the road department. I don't know how many your guys are going to not be able to show up. But what if the storm gets worse? Do we have a contingency plan? Anybody who can do chase trucks while the seasoned guys are running the plows? You know, I mean, I'll volunteer. Call me. I'll run a chase truck. I don't care. Whatever it takes to make sure that everybody's okay.
Well, that situation with Laura will work for her deal, but David's situation, that's not going to work, or Carolyn's.
Combine the two. You got empty cells, right? I'm sorry. Break them out by age brackets.
Or the road department. I mean, that's, you, in this building and that building, that would work, but the rest of it's not going to.
well, there's going to be situations where some people just aren't going to get childcare that quick. And that's why I'm asking for item number 2, is I
Yeah.
really think it's not the employee's fault. Some employees may not even have enough annual to cover for that period of time. And in my proposal for the administrative leave, it's not a blanket, hey, here's 3 weeks, go hang out with your kids. It's going to be evaluated case by case, each employee, each week, and for me to authorize that leave.
And really, it's, I mean, I think we can get around this with the you know, the treasurers and clerks, and I mean, they might not be manned as well, but we can, you know, we can run a skeleton crew. But who can't run a skeleton crew is Carolyn in the detention center, and David, and any of the other EMS that,
Yeah.
you know, those are probably the biggest concerns right now. That, I mean, we can let everybody else off work, but we can't let Carolyn and her bunch off work. So, I don't know, maybe that's where we could look, maybe I don't know, maybe to the guard.
It's worth a try.
But sure,
Because it is an emergency. I mean, whenever we have a detention center that's already skeleton, already,
Oh, she heard me say her name. She's leaving.
you know, running on a skeleton crew, and then if we have employees that can't come to work, then that's an emergency.
And it's not like we have any departments that aren't essential, because we pretty much run a skeleton crew as well.
I'm not asking for anything on agenda item 1. I wanted us all to gather, discuss the issue, be prepared for what may happen. Some have said employees haven't even voiced their concern yet. I have heard some already, so I think we just need to be prepared that we're going to have some shortages. And you need to be aware we're going to have some shortages.
It might be a good idea to get the number of employees that we're talking about. Like if each department can reach out to employees that aren't here and the ones that are here, and just find out which ones are going to have an issue. That way we have a count of what, I mean, it could be 10 people.
It could be.
You know, I doubt it, but I mean, it could be 10 people, and then that's not as big a problem as we're anticipating. So it might be best to get a number, at least something that we can work with, and then go, okay, so we've got 25 people who are going to need to find childcare, and that's probably not going to happen. Now, which departments are they in, and how can we make that work?
And I think that's something we're probably not going to know till Monday because of different shifts. Some employees aren't working today, so they aren't here to voice their concern. Maybe they're busy making other arrangements.
In order to call on the guard, do we need to declare a state of emergency through the commission board?
I do not know.
I would have to research that. My instinct is that's something the governor would have to do, but that is just a wild guess. But I can look into that point.
Okay.
And I also know a fellow county attorney is a major in the state guard, and I can reach out to him to see if he has any thoughts about if the state guard has any resources. So.
And this is here's another thing too. Patria, I'm glad you came back because I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you heard of anybody over at the city having the same issues or the same concerns?
Yes.
Okay. So if we're talking about these two entities and we're talking about that number of employees roughly, then I'm wondering if there's not something collectively that we can do, because it's going to be a hardship on both governmental entities at this point, and we really need to make sure that the city stays going, the county stays going, and things are taken care of, and that's why I'm really glad that you're here.
But the city can't get rid of their police force and let too many of them go because of the toilet raids toilet paper raids at Walmart. I mean, but that's a serious deal. There's going to be issues on this deal before it's over with.
That is something too, though, that we could reach out to the city police and see if they don't have some people who could volunteer to work out at the detention center also. I mean, you know.
We don't have enough officers. I mean, if I told you how many cops are on the street, you'd all be shocked. So I will tell you that there's no way that our chief would. We don't have manning at all. So, but what I will tell you that we're waiting on is that we're told there's going to be some guidance from the president today in Congress that's going to place some requirements on employers as far as leave, and so we're waiting to see what's coming out on that. There's a big meeting Monday morning where we hope to have some guidance, but this conversation is the same that the city's having currently. So I don't think there's an easy answer.
Does anybody else have any brainstorming that they've done out here that is different than what we're brainstorming on right now? Awesome.
Can you reach out to Boys and Girls Club
Yeah.
and say, can you be open, or at least some of the employees that have already passed the background checks, and maybe provide the Civic Center to whatever ratios we can provide. We get so many people that are not going to be working at the Boys and Girls Club. I doubt they're going to be getting paid. Maybe we can pay them instead, or, you know, just to offset and offer something else.
That's a good idea, Amy.
What about the Holloman Air Force, the military out there? Can they, if we contacted the commander or somebody, would they, military police? David, do you have any, no? She's already shaking her head, no, that's,
They're shutting down portions of the base today and closing the west gate. They're keeping their CDC open, but Colonel Campo is restricting access to base right now. He doesn't want any civilians on there, anybody but absolutely necessary personnel.
Makes sense.
What about, you know, our churches, possibly, I know Anthony Torres, maybe Tim Brock from Christ Community. Maybe we could tap into some of those. Maybe we could at least, I mean, they have facilities, they have classrooms, they have daycare places, you know, I mean.
Pastor Kyle's got the whole upstairs of that church too, and it's all classrooms up there.
See, that we might be able to reach out anyways. I mean, the churches, they should be willing to help in times of crisis or emergency. So, I mean, I think it'd be worth a shot. It'd be worth, and again, in regards to the churches, our churches, to have background checks done on all the people that deal with children. So, that might be Tim. I bet you Tim Brock. I bet if Tim Brock was sitting here right now and I was to ask Tim, I bet they'd be all over it.
You bet. He's a good guy.
And I would have much more peace taking my child over to New Heart Cowboy Church and leaving him in the care of the folks there than anywhere else.
And we have to remember, it's not just the county and the city. There's going to be private businesses who are having the same problem.
Sure, and what a great time and opportunity for our churches to step up and you know, and lend a hand in time of need.
Well,
And I'm sure that they would. I know that they would. I mean, they should. If they should, we'll have to talk with them.
Right. As a matter of fact, as Laura and I were leaving our office, one of our employees is, I can't remember what church she goes to, is a member of church, and she got a notification that they're canceling services this weekend, that they're having online services, but they're not having any at the church, not for fear of, but in the premise of trying to protect people just in case.
I think our range master wants to teach his kids how to
Hi,
shoot.
Mark Douglas, range master, Cindy Paul Lord's shooting range. We have a 760 square foot classroom that we can move some furniture around, that there is people who have background checks to babysit the kids. We have that facility. Of course, we can put them to work too. So you can fill up a bucket full of brass, I'll give them a candy bar and a soda. But you're going to have to not tell Matt that, because he's going to blow a fuse having the kids around lead. So, you know, there is a classroom there at the range. It is, you know, it's got HVAC in it, it's heated, cooled. We got bathrooms, and we have 82 rolls of toilet paper.
He counted it.
Handle something. No, not.
Don't advertise it.
We are armed. We can protect that toilet paper. But we do have those facilities there at the range. It's just a matter of probably getting staff folks who can handle children versus my staff.
I would be inclined to reach out first to the churches.
Sure.
To Pastor Vic, Anthony, Tim Brock, Crispin.
Pastor Kyle.
We could, and y'all might have some churches in here that you guys go to that you would feel comfortable sending your kids to. But I think maybe if we could reach out that direction first. I don't know, and if you want to do something internally inside your offices, then you know that could be left up to your discretion and the department heads.
well, can we, to get a number like Lori said, can you send something out to each one of the department heads and have each one of them contact their employees and find out, so we know a number?
Right.
That would be,
Yeah, no problem. Would probably be Monday before we get that information.
but I'm sure that probably a bunch of them already know that they're what's gonna,
Mhm.
she already does,
Mhm.
you know, so.
So just remember, I volunteered to drive Chase if you need me. Just whatever time you call, okay? I mean it.
In regards to Carolyn, I bet you that, I don't know, maybe the guard, maybe that would be an option anyways.
We've got a few different things here that you know, 'cause the churches, the Boys and Girls Club, if we can reach out to them and ask about their employees if they'd be interested, and then the departments, and then the National Guard possibly for the detention center. So that's 4 resources right there that we've identified that could possibly help.
Border Patrol is one also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Might reach out to you as well. We use them over on officers on the street, stuff like that, sometimes, especially if they're busy.
absolutely.
Yeah, they're law enforcement, so
Sure.
even if the very least they can assist
Uh,
us. if we need to.
As a retired Border Patrol agent, I will tell you that probably in these situations, leave gets canceled for the agents. So they're basically told that they have to stay working. And that's happened to us in the past, even when we weren't getting paid. We had to stay on the job. So the Border Patrol here at the Alamogordo station, I believe they're back up to 125 agents. So there may be some leeway there for them to provide help. They are the largest law enforcement agency in the basin as far as manpower is concerned, but basically you probably just have to call them and ask them, see what's going on. They may not be able to do that by regulations, but you won't know that unless somebody calls them and talks to them.
I don't know what this is doing across across on the other side of our border. I don't know, if there is a lot of cases of this virus.
I've been out for 2 years, so, you know.
Because I just say that, because if there is, then we need our border patrol.
Well,
There's 10 cases in Mexico.
I'm sorry,
There's 10 cases,
10 cases.
yeah, according to WHO information. There's an interactive map that shows everybody.
Rachel, you said that you had talked with, we have the other 2 senators here, Ron and Bill. Have either one of you 2 heard anything?
Oh, there we go.
No,
Well, that was-
concerning Mexico, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard from any of your colleagues around the other places? Have any of you talked to anybody, what they're doing on the other side of the mountain, or?
It's my impression that just about everything that's being done here is being done in the Roswell area. I think Lincoln is kind of in the same boat, schools, but daycares are not yet, which I think is kind of a strange thing.
Counterintuitive.
Because a lot of this stuff begins in, with younger kids and all that stuff. But most public activities have just been canceled. I even had a broadcasting board meeting set for next week, and we've canceled that as well. So it's literally just shutting everything down.
Gerald, have you guys reached out to the Association of Counties to find out if there's any sort of coordination between all the county governments on how they're seeing it? Because they may be developing a response in a county that would help you guys develop a response here. I would just suggest that if you haven't, that you do that, just to to talk to them a little bit, see what they're hearing as a group, because it's just pretty. I mean, it's just kind of all coming together, and it's creating real challenges. There's no question. And how to get around them or how to address them is, there might be a solution being developed in Curry County that would help you. There might be one in Catherine County
Well, is Steve here today? Steve
Yeah, I
Wolf?
talked to him earlier.
He's on the board of that. Would
Well,
he-
He's the president-elect, actually.
And I get all the correspondence from NMC on all the issues related to this pandemic. Some of their concerns right now are how we're going to address the issue within the detention center. There's been nothing from them pertaining to what are we going to address with sick leave and daycares. There are individual counties that have reached out to my HR director asking, what are we going to do? So there are other counties looking into this. And I believe one county even said they were just going to make them take sick leave. So,
One was gonna do that, I'm sorry, I don't remember which county it was, but I know Diliana and Sierra County were both working on the same thing as far as admin leave because of, it wasn't the employee's problem, fault, it was something that came down from the governor, so.
so other counties are facing the same issue, and they're trying to address it quickly.
Okay, so Michael, you're gonna check with the National Guard to see if,
I'll check the statutes and see what if that we need to make some other request or something. I'll do some legal research. Yes.
you might also check with the Border Patrol. Is there a name of a person that would be the best one to ask at the?
Yeah, I'll give it to Michael.
Okay. That might help your situation, Carolyn, if we could get some law enforcement in to.
That would make
Yeah, the way I see it, you're the most pressing. I mean, you're the greatest concern as far as a department. Make sure that you guys are safe out there and you're not any more skeleton than you already have here.
And David, haven't some of the Border Patrol, the law enforcement part of them, haven't they rode with the deputies? Do they, or are they not?
They're not part of that
We
task
don't
force.
ride together or anything like that. I mean, there's times we do some operations and stuff together. A lot of times we call for help, they come, they call for help, we go help them. It kind of just depends on the situation. They're always there to help.
How is Chaparral then? Is Chaparral, are they pretty skilled? Do you keep much in contact with them, the prison down there and their staff?
I haven't visited with them in a while. I couldn't tell.
I just wonder if they would be a resource.
It might be a good idea to make a call just in case they're having some issues too. So we be aware of that. They may have extra people too. You never know that they could send up.
And most of those employees at MTC live in El Paso, and I don't know if Texas has closed schools yet, so they may not have the same problem and may have excess employees that could assist.
That would be a good resource too. I'm keeping a list.
Me too.
And Mr.
Yep.
Chairman, I'm on the District Court's Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. So is Pamela. So is Carolyn and David. And I believe the next meeting is Monday, and I believe there are plans to talk there. Perhaps it could be brought up something like, could we maybe get some of the low-risk people, see if we could get some of those people out? I don't know if prosecution would be agreeable to that, but that's something that could maybe be brought up, maybe lessen the number of inmates and lessen the strain on Carolyn's staff.
You don't have, there's not, I mean, if just worst came to worst, you don't have maybe a list of retired detention officers that maybe recently have retired where could maybe be a resource that the county could tap back into just for a short period of time?
There hasn't been a whole lot of retirements, I think just left because of other employment,
Sure.
and or release. You have to be, not too many retirements happened lately.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
And my apologies for being a little bit late, but have you all talked to Jim Heckard at the hospital also? Are you guys aware of what they have to offer and what their capabilities are? Should this thing kind of blow up a little bit larger than it is?
I have.
They are as prepared as they can be right now.
Are they?
Yeah. They have some negative, I think, I don't know if this is the correct term, negative air rooms where they can put people in. And it's not circulated through the rest of the hospital. It goes outside, but it goes through a series of HEPA filters and so on and so forth. They have the specific suits. They have masks. They have everything. They are prepared at this point in time for what they would assume would be a normal response to something like this. If it mushrooms and there's bigger problems, multiple people, then they may have an issue. But and I don't want to speak for them. I'm just saying our conversation yesterday was they are as prepared as they can be for what they anticipate this level in our county would be at this time.
Well, we just hope and pray that we get through this without any kind of escalating. But it's good to know that they're getting their ducks in a row up there.
Yeah, they've had multiple meetings and all the different departments within the hospital, and they are as prepared, I think, as they possibly can be at this point.
The health department too. They're
Yeah.
they're ready to go.
The one problem they have is they've tested people already. They don't have testing kits. What they do is I think they take a swab and then they send that to Albuquerque, and it's taking about a 3 to 4, maybe 5 hour turnaround. And that's their problem right now. The epidemiologist, everything has to go through the epidemiologist, and everyone that they've sent up from Gerald Champion has been accepted, and they do the test on it. But there's this lag time. So what are you doing with that particular patient?
Yeah.
If they don't have something, do you still put them in an isolation room, or did they come with family? Are they sitting out, as a family sitting out in the waiting room? I mean, these are some of the areas where health department and hospitals around the state are a little bit gray on policies and procedures at this point in time. They don't want to create panic in any way, but they want to make sure people who actually might test and to my knowledge right now they've never had anybody test positive yet, but they still have this lag time, and what do you do with them and the family members is getting to be a little bit of a problem. If they would just allow the tests out and not have to deal with the epidemiologist, you have competent docs, and you know what the parameters are within the communities. This is more of a state issue, why we can't release, why everything has to go through the epidemiologist in Albuquerque before we find out whether it's here or Cruces or anywhere else in the state. That's the policy they've set up at this point in time. So just know there's going to be a lag time when somebody says, I'm not feeling well, and they come in to get tested. There's anywhere from a 2 to 5 hour lag time to get results.
Yeah.
Now, that's pretty good, quite frankly, but still, that's 5 hours.
Yeah.
They're being exposed, and other people are being exposed possibly.
Yeah, you have to pardon my ignorance, you may know, but with this virus, when the weather begins to change and warm up, if anybody in here knows, will it go eventually kind of go away? Does anybody know, or is it? Because flu is usually in a winter bug.
Yeah, it's a seasonal.
I just wonder if the weather and the temperature.
So I'm not doc, but I'll just tell you what I've heard, and this is it's a strain of the flu, and it should follow those same patterns. If it warms up, then things should settle down a little bit. But again, I'm not a doc, and
Sure.
And this is a new strain, and so they don't know for sure.
Yeah.
They're trying to still develop the vaccine, by the way, so we're not there yet.
Yeah. Well, like with H1N1, was that a vaccine that kind of made that kind of be something of our past, or do you know?
That I could not tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, Pamela, do we have something, I know Matt's not here, but his next guy in command over there is, do we have something in protocol that, on something like this?
We are currently, Josh and I today are working on the pandemic continuity plan, I can't say that word.
Continuity. Gotcha.
Which relates to Otero County and it functioning essential offices, what would be shut down if needed to be shut down, what happens if I get hospitalized, get seriously ill, who would be in charge. So we are working on that plan, and it does discuss measures for keeping employees safe, hand washing, keeping distance from people. So it is something we're working on. It will be put out today. So that's addressing it at the county level, not county-wide, but the employees, staff, and our operations. So we're working on those things.
I'm so glad this happened on my watch. Aren't you guys happy this happened on your watch? This is
So I have a
great-
list of all the
job.
ideas here today. I have a list of people to contact and reach out to, not just to help our employees, but those countywide who are going to experience issues. And I'm going to work with staff, and we're going to kind of split up some duties and start making some calls today, and see what we can do.
Well, we'll just allow you, I mean, the next item I know is deal with that. But we'll just have confidence in you and your judgment and work with the different departments and just we'll support you however we can.
Appreciate it.
My fear is with like the churches, I don't know if they're gonna wanna take liability, the response, for taking some kids in, they have 10, 15 kids in there and then all of a sudden.
Well, but the churches are they've already got their ducks in a row. I mean, they've already got the people that, you know, when you run a Sunday school or a daycare in your church, you have to have background checks. It's just like a regular daycare, you know. So they have members in their church that are already background checked, insurance. They've got it all. I mean, the churches would be
The
a
most
great asset, and I wouldn't see why any church wouldn't want to step up and help in a time of crisis or a time of need.
I
They
think
should
the
have
only
ability.
thing you might see is with those churches that are canceling all services and avoiding congregation, might not want to congregate the children and their
Exactly.
people as well.
Possibly.
So we won't know until we call.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, you know, and follow along with Commissioner's point, the churches probably would. The issue with most all of those daycare places is they've got limited numbers of children they can care for now. So we need to see, I guess, as you look into it, if there's some sort of rules and regs that have to be suspended, you know, to allow them to bring on more kids, if that becomes an issue, because that's what I've always understood, is, you know, usually there's capacity numbers, and we have to get past that. So if we find that out to be correct, well then what can we do in order to circumvent that, if they indeed want to be helpful? Because I can certainly agree with Commissioner Griffin that they would. It's just, do we have something that sticks in the way of allowing them to do that?
Yeah, I can only speak for the church I attend, Newhart, but we've got plenty of room for kids there, and I think a lot of the churches are the same way, you know. So it'll just depend on the phone call, some digging.
But there's still the number, they can't have over that 100.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if they have the regular
yeah.
daycare, that'd be the only thing there. Okay, so
We'll make some phone calls and see what we can do.
Okay.
any other discussion on item 1? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 2, discuss and consider giving the county manager authority to provide administrative leave to those employees who are unable to quickly find childcare during the emergency school closure by the governor. Open for discussion?
And I kind of touched on this before. I don't believe it's the employee's fault that they can't find childcare because the school closures, and that they may have to take their annual leave. Some may not have annual leave to take. We don't know. So I would like to have the ability, on a case-by-case basis, with working with each employee, what their needs are, evaluated each week. I don't want it to be a blanket policy. Here's 3 weeks off, spend it with your children. So I want to evaluate it each week with each employee and the department head to see if it justifies for administrative leave in those cases where they just absolutely cannot find childcare.
Absolutely.
I have the ability to give administrative leave in certain things, bereavement, disciplinary actions, but I feel, and depending on how much leave is given, this is a large enough number we're going to be looking at that I wanted to bring it to you to get your permission.
The numbers for, if the employee's salary is already budgeted.
Yes.
So it's not like we're going to go over
No,
budget or
they're
outside
just-
of it. It's just, how do we handle it?
They're going to keep annual leave on the books instead of using that up.
Yeah, and because it's not fair for them to have to take their vacation time for this.
It's not. They may have a family vacation
That's
plan
right.
this year, and it might put the kibosh on it. So I hate to see that.
So I have a motion for agenda item number 2 to give the county manager authority.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 2.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Of course.
That's all the, oh,
Well,
Michael?
just one minor legal thing, because this meeting was declared under the emergency provision of the Open Meetings Act, we're obligated to write a letter to the Attorney General's office to tell him we had the meeting and what we did. I already have the letter written, so I get it printed out, signed, put in the mail this afternoon to take care of that provision.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Well, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Can you do me a favor so we can kind of split duties on this?
Okay.
Can you call National Guard and Border Patrol?